Money got me like, pussy got me like, money got me like, money got me like, money got me like, pussy got me like.
Ow now, brown cow. Ow now, brown cow. Oh. What's up, everybody? Back at it again. What a day. What a fucking day. I am exhausted, folks. That is no lie. Actually, hungover would probably be the more proper term, but that's another point. That's, I guess I should say besides the point. See? Hungover. Brain's not working right. So, here we are. Episode 12, Why Not Podcast. This week's episode, we will be covering the Missouri Cannabis Business Conference. Graciously enough to be invited by my friend Tony D. Rose, him and his wife Heather. Shout out to Greenhouse Healthy. We're running the social media and helping plan this the entire Missouri Cannabis Business Conference, and hooked me up with a press pass. Myself, Adam Meredith, and his cousin Jacob Coleman. It was a great time, man. Very, very eye-opening and insightful. Got the chance to sit down with some people who, you know, are really doing some wonderful things in the cannabis industry, and how to, bring some stuff to light for the people who are looking to emerge into the industry and these new markets that are popping up for medical, for recreational, all that good stuff. All that good stuff. Won't keep you guys too long. Just wanted to forewarn you that this episode's definitely going to be a little different. I took my equipment with me and just conducted a few short interviews. So this episode won't be as long as normal, but it'll definitely be informative. At least I hope so. Because I'm a dumbass and I was put on the spot with a lot of very smart people and had to ask them some questions. So, yeah, that's it. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend. If you're looking to grow your lineup of podcasts, as always, make sure you check out Adam Meredith's podcast as well, The Outside Perspective with Adam Meredith. Yeah, that's it. That's all I fucking got. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Here is episode 12, the Missouri Canna Business Conference. Hello. All right, we're good. All right, Brooke, nice to meet you. My name is Justin Bricker. You'll be on the Why Not podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about who you are and Simplifya.
Yeah, so my name is Brooke Butler, and I am our Vice President of Business Development. And Simplifya actually launched in 2016. We were founded by the Vicente Cederberg law firm, who actually helped get Prop 64 passed in Colorado, and then was pretty pivotal in the implementation of Amendment 64 as well in the state. And they wanted to create a technology tool that licensed operators could use to actually be able to understand this crazy, kind of world of newly legalized cannabis, where the regulations are very dense, sometimes full of gray areas or a lot of maybe nuance, and just provide as much support as we can to the guys that are trying to do this the right way, be able to survive and even thrive, in this very intense operating environment.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. So what exactly is your goal, or your plan, I guess I would say, for the Missouri market? Is there anything that's different that you've had to deal with from previous experiences in different states?
I think Missouri is an interesting market. It seems, and I think it's still too early to tell, but it does seem like they are trying to kind of pull some regulations from some of the older legacy states that have gone well, and aren't trying to reinvent the wheel. Now, we won't see the regs till probably June or July of this year for Missouri, but we're expecting it to be, kind of a pretty similar rollout to a lot of these other states that have been recently going live with medical.
And what does a typical rollout usually look like?
Well, a long rulemaking process, with all the stakeholders involved giving comments, the regulators coming up with what they think is going to be the best way, for the state to regulate this, but also generate tax revenue. Let's not forget why the state really likes cannabis. And then, the licensing process. What has been interesting about Missouri is they are taking the kind of pre-applications, which a lot of other states didn't. So I know that they said that people can start really submitting the full apps in July or August, I believe, but I think there's already close to 400 that have submitted like a pre-application in the state. So that's interesting as far as a Missouri-specific issue.
Biggest difficulties in applying for a license?
Wow. A lot of it is the infrastructure. Zoning plays a major part in this. Finding an area in your local jurisdiction that will allow you to operate a cannabis business, that's tough. Obviously, when a state goes legal as well, real estate values tend to go up. In Colorado, I think that warehouse space went up 300 to 400% the first year after legalization. So that's a challenge. I think the biggest challenge, in my opinion, to licensing is people not understanding how much capital they are actually going to need before they're even operational.
Ballpark number on that capital?
It just depends on what size and scale and what type of licenses you're going to operate.
Okay, awesome. Any advice for anybody looking to be a part of the cannabis industry going forward? I
would say patience and persistence and being nimble, because I'm sure Missouri will be very similar to other states where they're going to issue the first set of regs. They'll change them and keep changing them very consistently. And so you have to be able to have a system in place or a process in place to stay on top of that so you're not fined or shut down and then lose all that investment, and hard-earned, time spent just to get the license. We tell people that the easy part is actually knowing the rules. The hard part is having every single one of your employees do the exact same thing every single day the right way. And that's not easy, especially when you're in an industry where we're anti-authoritarian by nature. But the whole way this movement keeps going forward is by us showing the world that, hey, we are regular business people just like any other industry. You might try to regulate this plant more than plutonium, but we're going to find a way to survive and show people that this is a viable business and we're here to stay. Awesome. Where can everybody find you, information, anything you want to leave on some closing notes? Yeah, so our website is www.simplifya.com. That's Simplify with an A at the end. And then we're also on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, all with our handle being Simplifya. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Brooke. Thank you. My pleasure. Perfect. All righty. Pierce Hansen, thank you for sitting down with me today, sir. Welcome to the Why Not podcast. Why don't you go and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Justin. Great to be on the podcast. My name's Pierce. I work for a company out of Fort Collins, Colorado called Mammoth Microbes. We make a product called Mammoth P, which people usually tend to laugh at the name, but the meaning behind that is that we have microbes that unlock phosphorus. So our product is a microbial bloom enhancer for cannabis and hemp as well. It's 4 microbes that directly target phosphorus to unlock it and make it far more available for the plant to uptake. So giving the plant stronger roots, stronger stems, and bigger flowers and buds with increased density and flavor as well. And that's the main component of what phosphorus does for cannabis? Yes. Getting phosphorus into the plant is super important, especially during the flowering stage for that flower development. So our microbes help that process happen way more efficiently.
Okay. And how more efficiently would you say? Is there, I mean, obviously, as a company, you got to have science behind your numbers, right?
Absolutely. We're completely science-driven. Our company was developed about 5 years ago at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, CSU, the Rams. And so we've had extensive lab testing and field testing behind it. We found that growers using our product the whole way through, from early veg all the way through flush, post-flower, see like on average a 16% increase in yield, a 6% increase in stem strength, as well as like a 1 to 2% increase in terpene profile. We're still getting more data on the terpene profile a bit back, but I mean, those are huge numbers.
Now, does that help increase actual potency of the THC levels as well?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, yeah, just tell me a little bit more about Mammoth. You said you guys have been open for how long now?
About 5 years. We were developed at Colorado State University in the labs there in Fort Collins. We still maintain a close tie with CSU. Actually, one of our co-founders is on, he's the department head for the Soil and Crop Science Department at Colorado State. So we still have close ties with them. We've been killing it in the cannabis space for about 4.5 to 5 years. Domestically here in the U.S., we're in, I think, every state but North Dakota, but I would assume that would change here pretty soon. We're also worldwide. We have a huge market share down in South America. Colombia has booming off for us. Spain has been huge for us out in Europe. The UK as well. We recently added Australia at the end of last year. So it's just it's going all over the place.
And you guys are specifically cannabis industry driven?
Yes, and we are actively pivoting as well to market to the hemp community, while not ignoring cannabis at all.
Okay, fair enough. Awesome. Well, where can everybody find you, the company, anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah, so we have a great website, mammothmicrobes.com. The homepage has a store locator where you can find all our local retail partners. We don't do direct business with the customers. We have retail partners, which are kind of our middleman between us being distribution and production and the final user. So yeah, the website, we also have a great FAQ page on the website which answers a ton of great questions, and we're always adding to that as well. In addition, I'm on Instagram as mammoth_ph, and would love to follow and hear from any listeners here today.
Awesome, Pierce. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse.
All right, Patrick. I'm here with Patrick Wilson from Green Health Docs. I apologize about that. Patrick, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you asking. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Green Health Docs?
So Green Health Docs is based outside of Frederick, Maryland. We have 6 locations in Maryland. We have 2 in Ohio, and we also have one that we're setting up here in Missouri. We're also going to North Dakota. And what we do is we certify and register our patients for the medical marijuana program. We keep them through the whole process until the dispensary is open. If they have any questions, they can call us. We have a call center that's open Monday through Saturday. We're also going to be offering grow classes with elite home growers, so that our patients during that window, while the dispensaries are waiting to be open, they can grow their own product. So that's what we're here for, just to guide the patients through the process and be a educational ear for them, here while Missouri is open.
Gotcha. Okay, why don't you give us a brief rundown on what the registration process looks like and some common hurdles that you might see?
So the registration process isn't open yet. It's going to open July 4th. And at that point, our patients will come back to our office. We'll assist them in registration. But right now, it's not open yet. It'll probably be like a 15-minute process where they'll come in, we'll register them. You may have to send a couple of photo IDs, proof of address, or things like that to the Missouri. But we'll guide you through that process as well.
Okay, so are you guys also in charge of helping people understand what the regulations they have to go through to get their registration?
Yes, we'll help them with that, but right now it's so little known right now. But once we know, we'll definitely let all of our patients know, and then they'll come into our office and we'll actually physically help them register if they need help.
Okay, awesome. So where can everybody find you guys?
Right now, you'll just call our call center number because we're actually about to move on Wednesday, actually. So the number is 314-282-8017. That's our Missouri call center number. So just give us a call. We'll set you up with a new location and book your appointment at that time as well.
Okay, and are you in charge of the St. Louis market, or is somebody else here that you'd like to be?
Right now, I'm going to be in charge of the St. Louis market. You can follow me on Instagram, Patrick Star, 3 S's, 3 T's, 3 A's, 3 R's. You can also go to our website, which is www.greenhealthdocs.com. And so, keep up with us, and then you can follow me on Instagram. We're also, Green Health is on Instagram too. So it's greenhealthdocs.com. And we also have a Green Health Docs Ohio on Instagram as well. And we're also on Facebook. So follow us on all of those.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
No problem, buddy.
How's it going?
All right, everybody. I'm here with Zachery Post from Elite Home Growers Academy. Zachery, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself, sir?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I started Elite Home Growers Academy. I learned a lot of information about growing and cultivating marijuana back in Las Vegas, Nevada when I lived there. So I moved back to Missouri in 2017 and didn't really have any idea of growing cannabis at all. But I knew how to grow it, but I didn't think I was going to be in business doing it here. Then Amendment 2 popped up on, the vote, and when it passed, it just triggered something in me where I knew, okay, what can I offer this space? What can Zach Post offer this space? And that's where I created Elite Home Growers Academy, really to focus on bridging that gap between when a patient gets their medical cards versus when they can actually walk into a dispensary. So I know it's going to be a gap there, so we want to basically be able to teach those patients how to grow just to bridge that gap for momentarily.
Okay, and do you guys do workshops or in-home consultations or?
Oh yeah, we do a little bit of both. So the key is we do a lot of classes. So we offer our cultivation class, which is a 4-hour class. Then we also offer a stock investment class because I'm a licensed stockbroker. And then on top of that, we do hydroponic classes where if people want to learn how to grow hydroponically. And then after that is done, if they need a growth coach to kind of help them through their first few grows, we have a subscription service where they can actually buy into that, where they can text us pictures of their plants and we can say, hey, no, you need to up your calcium, or you need to add more nitrogen, or you need to pull back on the whatever the case may be that we can see through the picture, we can actually offer that assistance. And then sometimes we can actually do a house call if it's that detrimental where we see something that's really major, we can actually come to the home and also set up their tent. Like if they need a tent set up or they don't know how to hook up their carbon filter, the ventilation. We're trying to provide all the services that we can to help that patient do the best in-home grow.
Okay, and how often do you guys hold your workshops?
We do one, but right now we're doing about once a month for each workshop. So once a month for cultivation, once a month for the stock, and once a month for the hydro.
Okay, awesome. Are you guys only in St. Louis now, or are you?
Yeah, so right now we're only in St. Louis, which we're trying to scale, of course, to other cities like Kansas City, Jeff City, Columbia. We have these plans to make those connections, but right now we're only in the St. Louis area.
Okay, and what do you think has been the biggest hurdle that you've had to face trying to emerge in the cannabis industry? Obviously, everybody, it's been a rat race since they got the green light, so to speak, So, yeah, like I said, what do you think's been the biggest hurdles?
I would say the biggest, we're getting a lot of resistance when it came to advertising. A lot of people don't understand that. They say, well, we're going to start a cannabis company and we're just going to advertise on Facebook. We're going to do this and grab that market share. But you can't. Facebook owns Instagram, and Facebook does not allow anything with cannabis. So cannabis ads. So you can't advertise. You can't buy ad space through any really big social media platform to run those ads. So initially we were thinking, well, this is going to be a hurdle, but we have to get more creative where we can actually get more attention and grab the market. So that was the biggest thing, was getting advertising for what we do.
And any advice on to people who want to get around those things?
Oh yeah, I would say the advice is your wording. It's all about word. The way you say something, it means a lot. So if you get to the point where you can, because we actually had a radio advertisement on 93.7 The Bull that ran, and it was all about wording. So we worded it correctly. We never mentioned marijuana. We never mentioned cannabis, but we were able to get it out there. So it's all about the wording. So look at how you're wording your advertisement, and you can break through that barrier.
Awesome. Zach, well, man, anything you want to plug, anything, social media, websites, everything?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would say social media. Of course, you can follow us on Instagram at Elite Home Growers. And we have a Facebook page also under that same tag at Elite Home Growers. Our website, elitehg.org. Visit us. And then we're doing a big 420 event on April 20th at Maggie O's that's downtown. So anybody want to come out, it's open to the public. Come out, have a good time, and get educated about the stigma. We're breaking the stigma behind this, so get educated on the benefits of the cannabis, CBD, and THC, and everything else. And yeah, that's what I want to plug.
Awesome. Zach, you're a beautiful man. I appreciate your time, brother. Thank you.
Thanks again, man.
Alrighty, Tyler Stratford, thank you for joining us today. This is the Why Not podcast, and I'm Justin Bricker. Nice to officially meet you, sir. Awesome. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm 31. I was actually born in Kansas City, Kansas, but I live in Colorado now. Been in the cannabis industry about 8 years. I'm an Army veteran. What else? I live in Boulder, Colorado, man. That's me.
Okay, cool. And so you're with Canna Advisors, correct?
Yes, I work with Canna Advisors as their strategic partnership director, as well as their retail operations expert.
Okay, and what are you guys' overall mission or goal as a company?
So Canna Advisors, our co-founders actually started as operators in Colorado way back in 2009. And from 2009 until about now, they've basically been helping people get off the ground and running, whether it was themselves building multiple grow operations for themselves in Colorado, or us consulting in one of 29 states now and 3 or 4 countries that we've been in. Our goal is just to help people navigate the pitfalls that we've experienced in our time in different markets and marketplaces, both as operators and consultants, so that they can get off the ground here sustainably and become a successful business.
And what are some common pitfalls that you usually run across in the early stages of helping develop a dispensary or somebody in the cannabis industry?
Yeah, I'd say the most obvious ones are stuff that we all see. We see some lazy branding almost, buds, this and that with a Z, or, I'd say that's like a common pitfall. You kind of just fall into the green noise of everything. And obviously we have a name like Canna Advisors, so we're not too much different, but we kept our name for a long time. I'd say another pitfall is really just not choosing the right market. A lot of places will limit you, meaning you have to be a state resident to be in that market. And sometimes it's just not a right fit for the size and scale that you're able to operate at. So let's say you don't want to be a gigantic producer in a state with not a lot of demand, and you don't want to be a small producer in a state with a gigantic demand where you can't keep up. And
how many states did you say you guys were in?
We've worked in 29 states now, and Canada, Guam, and Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow. How much does it differ regulation-wise when it comes to state-to-state basis?
It can be really night and day. It seems that Missouri's taken a lot of advice from a lot of these states that have had successes and pitfalls in the past. But for instance, Missouri is a competitive license application market, which means they are limiting the number of licenses they're going to give, and they're making the application merit-based. So you got to score high. Colorado, right now at least, is open. So as long as you have control of the property and local approval, you can actually pay the application fees and get up and running, pass a criminal background check, etc. But really, states can fall anywhere in between there. The most extremes I've seen are Florida, for instance, requires you to be what we call vertically integrated. So you have to grow it, you have to manufacture, extract, infuse, and you also have to dispense it. That is a little bit difficult for people because let's say you're a really good grower, you're now required to do all 3 things. It makes you not as good of a grower potentially, and it doesn't allow the marketplace to be competitive to itself. So a lot of these states can really fall in the middle of that, whether they're medical or recreational, there's still competition. States that are doing it right have the programs up and running, and states that are doing it wrong have a lot of litigation and a lot of lawsuits after they try and get the program up and running, like Arkansas and Maryland and Florida in particular.
Okay, and what can you tell us about the approval process for the state of Missouri? Do you know how that is so far?
So far, we have about 13 and a half pages of regulation in Amendment 2 that's been released with some other guidance on draft regulations regarding caregivership. But really, there's no structure to the application yet. We'll know more by, at the latest, June 4th, which is something they did great in Missouri, to set these hard dates and deadlines so that we'd have to know about these, we'd have to know the regs by June 4th. They have to accept applications by August 4th, and they have to release who won by December 31st. So that's a lot, as much as we know. They release qualifying conditions, which means what ailments do you have to have that qualify for you to get a medical card. But the application, there's not much information out there about it yet. And I think that's a good thing. Missouri taking their time to really structure these regulations and application appropriately is going to pay them dividends in the long run.
And do you know a number on how many licenses they're going to give out, or is that just up in the air?
Yeah, so they outlined, and forgive me for my exact numbers on this, but in the amendment they talked about at least, and that's a big asterisk, at least 60 some odd cultivators, 80 some odd manufacturers, and I believe 192 dispensaries, at least, spread evenly throughout these 6 congressional districts. So they divided up the state into 6 congressional districts, and that's how they're issuing licenses.
Okay, awesome. Any advice to anybody out there looking to emerge into the cannabis industry?
Yeah, I just remind everybody that this industry has an incredible capacity to do good, both on the social justice avenues as well as the healthcare avenues for people in this country and the world, obviously. My advice is to make sure that you're passionate, because it will take passion to get you through the struggles in this industry.
Awesome. Tyler, I really appreciate you taking the time out with me. Thank you, sir. Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. We are here for day 2 of the Cannabis Expo, and I am here with Dr. Mimi Vogt. That's correct?
Yes, correct.
Mimi, how are you today?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you, Justin.
Oh, thank you. So what are you doing here today?
So I'm the Missouri Cannabis Trade Association's Healthcare and Education Committee Chair, and my focus is to educate patients as well as educating physicians and people in the healthcare industry about cannabis and how it can be helpful.
Okay, and what topics will you be speaking on over these last 2 days?
So yesterday I helped to talk during the keynote speaker session about patients and about how cannabis is a plant medicine, and a little bit about myself. My grandfather was an herbalist, so he was an herbal medicine doctor in Vietnam in the late 1800s, and so and then I come from a family of all physicians who have practiced Western medicine with my father, my sister, and other family members. But we've gone back now to our eastern roots, our southeastern roots, and looking at plant medicine. And so I started learning about cannabis and found out that it is helpful as a medicine, and then there are research studies available. We'd love more research, good quality research to be done, but there is enough data at this point that I really do believe it is a medicine, and I have patients who are testimonials to that.
And what is the most common argument against the fact that cannabis isn't a medicine?
So I think that there's just a stigma. This plant should never have been made illegal to begin with in the early 1940s, and a lot of that I think was political and had to do with more politics and business. The American Medical Association president at that time said, please do not make this illegal. This is a medicine. So I think that it's always been a medicine, but the stigma is there because it was made illegal. And so the questions that I get all the time is, well, if it's a medicine, then why did it become illegal to begin with? And so I have to go into that history about it. Other things I get are, well, there's no research data. And then I have to say, look, there's research from the 1800s. There's research today. And you just have to be able to dig deep to find it because of the stigma, because it's federally illegal. A lot of that research is just not as readily available. But I recently became a member of the board of directors for the Society of Cannabis Clinicians. And this group has been is made of physicians for physicians, and they've been in business for 20 years, helping to spread knowledge and to bring the research that's available, and to put together meetings and to offer continuing medical education for doctors for 20 years. So it's there.
And where can people find that information?
That's at cannabisclinicians.org, cannabisclinicians.org, or if you look up Society of Cannabis Clinicians, they have very good videos that you can watch of these physicians giving these talks. There's a library where there's articles that you can read, and they also offer continuing medical education in collaboration with the Medical Cannabis Institute.
And obviously, it's medical cannabis is growing, more and more in as the years go by. Where do you think we are in the stage of being legal across the board or at least medical across the board?
So, other countries are doing that. In the United Kingdom, a medical marijuana program has been is in place countrywide, and so is Australia. Thailand also recently approved medical marijuana to be used throughout the country, and the Philippines and many other countries are following suit. And I think that as we've come to a tipping point where I think that this is now on the is finally on the agenda for our government. So possibly in the next 2 to 4 years, I'm hopeful that that's something that we will see happen.
Awesome. And it's a little off subject, but, earlier you touched on saying that you come from a long line of herbalists. Do you do any studies on kratom or anything like that?
So kratom is something that is very new to me as far as learning about it just recently, and I definitely will say I have to do more research to look into it, but it is something that I'd be interested to learn more about.
Is there anything that you could speak on it right now? Because I know it's kind of a hot button topic, and I've experimented with it a few times recently, and I could see why people think it should be illegal. I've kind of experienced the same effects from taking painkillers and stuff like that. So is there any like I said, any advice or anything you could speak on it about right now?
So kratom is what I've learned is from Southeast Asia, which is from where my family is from in Vietnam, and I've tried to look up the Vietnamese word for it. I've tried to look up the flower and where it comes from. There's an herb that a lot of elders use in Vietnam, elderly women especially, which I think may be kratom or something similar to it, but I'm still trying to dive deep on that. I know that it's opiate-like, and because of that, there is that risk of respiratory depression. And so whenever I hear that makes me a little concerned that it may be a medicine, but that we need to have it regulated in a way that is safe for patients. And that's the same way I feel about cannabis, is that I'm glad that it is coming in a way where my patients can finally get access to lab-tested medicine, where there's not pesticides, that there's not microbials and things like that, because a lot of my patients currently are using it from the black market, and I don't know when they're ill whether this is related at all to maybe the pesticides that are being used, or maybe it's because there's salmonella, and I've heard that and that's happened in other states where there's like an outbreak of microbial in a batch of cannabis, but when it's lab tested, we can find that information. So I think regardless, I think kratom, if it is we find more information, it needs to be something that should be controlled.
What would you say is the biggest downfall of medical cannabis?
The biggest downfall of medical cannabis. I think the biggest downfall is not having access. I think it's the access, and when we get it to a point where it is going to be available in dispensaries and it is taxed heavily, then it becomes very expensive for patients. So very many patients then can't afford the medicine because it's not covered by insurance and it's not paid for by insurance. The other thing that I think is difficult is that patients have to pay a lot of money to get certifications, which I'm seeing, being thrown out there, lots of very high dollars for patients, and I as a physician, I almost feel like that's not fair for many of my patients I have patients who live in poverty, who a lot of them are Medicaid recipients and veterans who can't get access to a physician because their physicians are in the veteran healthcare system and their hands are tied. So I think that's probably the two most important things I feel like are barriers.
Awesome. Well, Doc, I really appreciate you sitting down and taking time to speak with me. Anything you want to plug? Any other speaking engagements that you have, or social media you'd like people to reach out to you on?
Yeah, so I'm going to be speaking at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. I'm going to be speaking at Grand Rounds to medical students, faculty, and residents there in May. And we're trying very hard to get a speaking engagement in Kansas City, possibly that same night, that's open more to the public. I'm also have contacts where I'm going to be setting up speaking engagements out in Springfield, Missouri, Jefferson City, Missouri, maybe even Poplar Bluff, Joplin, Missouri. So I'm trying to reach the whole state.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ashley, how are you this morning?
Good, how are you?
I am wonderful. We're still here at the Missouri Cannabis Business Expo. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what you're doing here today and kind of a little bit about what your story is.
Yeah, sure. So we're here with Ayden's Alliance, and we founded that to help special needs families afford their children's cannabis-related expenses. So we want to help anywhere from paying for their cards, paying for the doctor's appointment to get that card, helping with medicine. We also want to do patient education. My husband's a nurse, and so we want to just fill in the gaps of patient access and education. So.
And for those people who don't know, what is the typical cost of the process of something like that?
Sure. So a patient card is $25, and then if you want to cultivate at home, it's another $100 for that card. And then you can grow up to 6 flowering plants at a time for your medicine or your child's medicine. That is going to be a lot more reasonable than, say, going to the dispensary and buying product. You will be able to try more strains, different options. So it's just financially, a more affordable route for families.
And how did you start on this journey?
Sure. So my son Ayden, he's the inspiration behind Ayden's Alliance, and he was actually the 5th person in Missouri to get a hemp card when that whole program started several years ago. And so that's kind of what started us down this path. He has intractable epilepsy, cerebral palsy, several other diagnoses, but we started the CBD to help control his seizures, and then that's how we kind of got involved with getting Amendment 2 passed.
How many seizures was he having before the cannabis, and where is he at afterwards?
So he would have up to 100 a day, and then after the CBD oil, we would go days without seizures, so it was a huge improvement. So no medication ever helped him, and they actually hurt him more. We had long-term side effects from a lot of the pharmaceuticals. So.
And what was the process like, trying to figure out what could help him, and getting over the stigma of giving a cannabis product to a child?
Sure. So, at that point, we were willing to try anything. We were at the point of it was either brain surgery or the next medication was we had to sign a form saying that if Ayden passed away after starting this medication, the pharmaceutical company wouldn't be held liable. And so at that point, we were just like, no more, there has to be something else. So that's when we started researching more natural options. And thankfully, the doctor Ayden was seeing at the time, was supportive of that as long as he got that hemp card. And so that's how we started that process. And, just trial and error as far as dosing, learning from other parents, families in other legal states that, have tried several things for their kids. So.
Is there any other major support groups that you reached out to that helped you along with this process?
Sure. So the Realm of Caring out of Colorado was a huge one, and then they just from there being able to connect to other families. Social media is amazing for families with special needs children because we don't get out a lot. And so that's kind of our big support group, and so you talk about different things that help your kids, and so that's.
What do you say to the people who say you're giving drugs to your child?
Well, I would just list all of the pharmaceuticals that Ayden has been on and the side effects from those, and the damage that they did to his body, and a lot of the stigma is still there for some people, and they say, well, what about the children? If we legalize cannabis, then they think all the kids are going to be smoking joints or something, I guess. But I say, what about the children? What about my children? What about my child that needs this? So. And
so how long have you guys had Ayden on cannabis?
4 years. Mm-hmm. It's been 4 years since he got his hemp card, and we were able to try the CBD oil, for the first time. It was 4 years ago. So.
What is like a typical dosage? Just is it like the 1,000 milligram tube, or? So
it's it varies by child, just like with any other cannabis use. Strains are going to affect us differently. Something that might work for me might have might make you feel paranoid or something. So dose, you always start low and go slow is always the recommendation. So.
Gotcha. Ashley, well, what you guys are doing is amazing, and I really hope that everything keeps going well for you. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you.